Not gonna lie, it's been tough to watch from the sideline.
Irving playing in an NBA game for the first time since June.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
Magical. Kyrie beats the buzzer.
I've had a lot of debuts, but nothing comes close to this one. Being out of the game for 8 months and coming back in, it meant a little bit more.
Ooh, it feels good to be back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold, joined by none other than Mr. Kendrick Perkins and Miss Monica McNutt. Deanna Orlovsky and Damian Woody will be here as well with their takes on the latest Antonio Brown and Aaron Rodgers news. So we have a jam-packed show. But Perk, before we get to anything else, I've got a question for you. How'd you enjoy that 22-piece spicy wing dinner that Kyrie served up last night in his season debut?
I mean, Charlie, did you see it? And it was 3 different flavors. You had the Cajun rub, the honey barbecue, and the lemon pepper.
Ooh, it was delicious. Well, let's get into all of that yumminess right now because Kyrie's return made the difference last night, helping the Nets defeat the Pacers 129-121. The guard posted 22 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 3 steals, and hitting several crucial baskets as Brooklyn clawed back from a 19-point deficit. His presence also helping his teammates do their thing, including KD, who finished with 39 points. So, Kyrie, tell us how that felt last night.
I've had a lot of debuts, but nothing comes close to this one. It meant a little bit more, just because at this stage, you know, taking off 8 months or being out of the game for 8 months and coming back in, and you know, there's so much uncertainty. Just how many minutes, you know, what's the flow of the game gonna be like? You know, how are my teammates gonna feel, and what's the game flow gonna be? You know, you just don't have any idea. So I went in with just an open mindset, just to ground myself, be present, and do whatever it takes to win.
Okay, got to shake off those jitters. Now, Monica, I know where you've stood for the past week or so on this debate, but after seeing what he did last night, is part-time Kyrie good for the Nets?
Oh, Charlie, I mean, part-time Kyrie is not bad for the Nets. I mean, he's a terrific basketball player, and if I can just stick with Perk's chicken wing analogy, that was the most consistent chicken wing order that I would have expected. In fact, if I didn't know that the shop that makes the chicken wings had missed 35 opportunities to cook those chicken wings, I would have never known that he had missed any time at all. And so I think in many ways, last night's performance for me, and I mean this in a positive, was kind of unremarkable. It was standard Kyrie Irving. And if you don't know the context of the big picture, you would have never known. And in particular, I thought in the second half of the third quarter and in the fourth quarter, his leveling up defensively was something that stood out to me as a positive. I think his offensive ability, no questions asked, right? Like his layup package is undefeated. His handles are elite. But when he turned it on defensively and helped the Nets finish that game on, I believe, a 31-16 run, that to me signifies that he has the pulse of this year's Nets squad and understands that defensively, they've been a team that's been formidable on that side of the ball. And so he had to continue in that vein.
Monica. You know, hey, the stage was set so perfect yesterday. Listen, here's the thing. The stage, it was a perfect example of what I was trying to explain to you yesterday, ma'am, when I said, listen, on the road, you're getting ready for the long haul. On the road, you need your superstars to step up for you. Here it is, Kyrie Irving, first game back. They were down double figures. I believe at one point it might have been 18 points they were down. And all of a sudden, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving took over the game. Now, my biggest takeaway from this, the word trust. And from what I peeped is that Kevin Durant, along with the Brooklyn Nets, trust Kyrie Irving more than they trust James Harden. And here's why. Because we know in the biggest moments, we have witnessed it time and time again, from Kyrie hitting one of the greatest shots in NBA history and finals history. We know that when you get down double figures on the road, we know that Kyrie Irving is capable of having that type of killer instinct to go out there and do what he did last night. And look, I'm not overreacting because we know that he could do this in the postseason as well. So my point is, when I look at why the Brooklyn Nets would consider bringing back Kyrie Irving part-time is because of the trust factor. And not taking anything away from James Harden and saying he's not a hell of a player. He's just not Kyrie Irving when it comes to the big moments, especially on the road and especially when it matters the most. Did you see that smile on Kevin Durant's face after the game? Did you see the joy that he had? I mean, seriously, the basketball world had a joy because we all take for granted at times certain people or certain individuals until they're gone, and then they come back and we say, you know what? We got a whole nother appreciation for Kyrie Irving.
I think Kyrie had that joy, right, too, Perk? I mean, he talked about the 8 months away and what it means to be on the court. All right, so you just went somewhere I wasn't really ready to go this morning. I will say this.
It happens like that.
You definitely... It goes like that sometimes. It definitely is evident, right, to a basketball fan, an analyst like yourself, a casual fan. It is evident that Kyrie makes both KD and James Harden's jobs easier. There is certainly a level of trust there because otherwise this very unique situation probably doesn't fly. More than James Harden? I understand where you're coming from, but just again, because of this unique situation, I think James is actually in a position, not that it's competitions between teammates, but for the sake of our conversation, I think James is in a position to garner some of that trust back just because he's going to be there. And I get it. Some of Kyrie is better than no Kyrie. But Perk, you've been a part of championship squads, and there is something to be said for continuity. Now, this is a unique group of guys. The big three wanted to play together. They're going to make these concessions. But I don't care what you say. There is still something to be said for continuity. And so I think because James has the opportunity to be there consistently, especially if he can stay healthy, I think he can garner some of that trust back.
Yeah, but he's been there, but he hasn't been consistent this year. And I think that's been a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Brooklyn Nets went from, Kyrie, if we can't have you full-time, we're not going to have you some part-time to changing their thought process. It's not because of Kevin Durant play. It's not because of what Patty Mills, because Patty Mills been balling. It's because James Harden has been inconsistent this year. And so now when you see the inconsistency from James Harden, you like, hold on, our ultimate goal is to win the championship. At least let's bring in Kyrie Irving. This is why Kevin Durant don't entertain those trade rumors when they talk about trading Kyrie Irving, because he knows that Kyrie Irving brings something different to the table that none of those other guys that you could possibly trade Kyrie Irving for could bring to the table. And that's that killer mentality.
Perk, I hear you, and I know that there is an unbreakable bond there between KD and Kyrie, but I'm just curious where we are come May if this thing doesn't pan out the way that we believe potentially it could. Because there's a lot to observe here, Perk. I hear you. James Harden has to get 100% healthy and find his stride and be consistent. The other day, he shot 3 for 11 from behind the three-point line versus the Clippers, which is a no-go. Kyrie Irving, some of him is better than none of him. I get it. KD, I mean, just get a ball to KD. He's going to find a bucket. But if this thing doesn't pan out in the optimal way, I just wonder, in hindsight, is there going to be a different conversation moving forward? And, of course, more importantly, we hope that the vaccination situation changes.
All right, well, we will find out. One thing we do know is that the Nets will be without that killer mentality on Friday. They take on the Bucks, but it's at home. So, again, Kyrie not available in New York City. But one thing we can say about him, he scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. That was the most out of